Thank you very much. Cheers, James. Thanks for that. Like I say, going over what Melanie and James have already talked to you about is critical risk management protocols for your business before the event. Risk management, same kind of activity as setting an alarm, locking a door, installing a CCTV system, and all those things that we do naturally for physical protection of our premises and our assets. Going over, how to balance that human interaction and also how to deal with the aspects of what you can physically do with your systems is really important, and all of which is to be expected to be done by a diligent business. So I'm going to talk to you about what happens after the event, and the poll's just been raised in the background there if you want to have a quick look at that. Do you have cyber insurance? And the actual answer to this is that only about 13% of businesses have cyber insurance, which is a remarkably low number. And as I go about my day-to-day business as an insurance broker, I notice that 13% seems high to me in general. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the products. So over the next 2 hours, I'm going to explain to you, not 2 hours really, we'll only do about 20 minutes or so at the most. But I explain to you about what cyber insurance does and some of the things that you need to think about when you're understanding what your cyber risk is. So we'll click on what is cyber insurance. Well, it's insurance that covers losses relating to damage to or loss of information from IT systems and networks. Very simple, very straightforward. None of that's covered under your normal physical insurance that you buy over the course of a working day. You've no cover for loss of data or damage to systems through cyber-related means. So we'll split it down into two sections. But first, I want to share with you some of the headlines that get raised and we've seen over the course of the last years, and why cyber insurance needs to be more at the forefront of SME businesses across the country. Never mind just our esteemed region of Yorkshire and Humberside. So obviously, we've all seen these headlines. We could list quite easily the types of companies that have seen those breaches over the course of the last few months. And obviously, from our perspective, the ones that stick out for me for the last few years were Sony and TalkTalk, Dropbox, LinkedIn over the last few years as well. And if you go on any of those websites that are available, so there's have I been pwned? Is that how you say it, James? I apologize sincerely if I've got it wrong, but you can see on there probably most of us have been involved in some of those breaches over the last few months and years. So from that perspective, it really does underline that that cyber insurance isn't just for big companies, it's for small companies too. And the cost of cyber insurance has come down dramatically over the last few years. And as a result, it makes it more accessible for all of us to become part of our normal standard purchasing of insurance annually. So if you haven't spoken to your own insurance broker about cyber insurance, please do. And if it feels like they don't know what they're talking about, please speak to me. So feel free to do that. So I'm just going to explain to you a little bit of an outline here of whether you need cyber insurance. So follow this with me if you don't mind. This is my picture of a lovely picturesque lakeside village bookshop. People only ever go in there and they pay cash. They don't have a card machine. There's no connectivity to the internet. They don't use anything like that. All it is cash over the counter, go in and browse, and that's that. These guys do not need cyber insurance. They've got no connectivity to the outside world, no digital footprint in any way, shape, or form. If we click on this, we'll see it evolve over the course of its development from a digital perspective. So first and foremost, it starts taking payments using a chip and pin machine of some description. And once it starts doing that, it's creating a connectivity to the outside world, whether that be through 3G or through a telephone line or whatever it is. So if we could click through, that'd be wonderful. And then the next step that the business takes is that they start using emails to communicate. They buy themselves a nice little iPad or an iPhone and whatnot and start talking to customers, making inquiries with the outside world. Then they start using social media, using their smartphone or their new laptop, shiny iPad that they've bought. There we go. It's a technological lag, I'm pretty sure. There we go, beautiful. Using social media. And basically, as they use social media, they create a bigger footprint with the outside world from a digital perspective, and something that creates effectively a log of their activity as well at the same time. Next step is it makes it easier because they're in the middle of nowhere and all the bank branches in their village have closed. They start banking online and using either a smartphone or their devices to do their day-to-day banking. And with that shiny new computer they bought and James Bully's exceptional IT skills, they've managed to start collating all of their stock into some form of EPOS and stock database in the background. Next step is to store all of that customer data into that same system, and then pop all that data that they've just collated up into the cloud. And all of a sudden, it's really easy for them to take the next step and set up a Shopify or an Etsy style website. And all of a sudden, they're an e-commerce organization that's gone from having no cyber footprint whatsoever or to having a footprint in the same way that the likes of Amazon has, for instance, just on obviously a much smaller scale. You can all see here those 8 interactions with that particular business that we see as being relatively straightforward things we all do have created the need for some form of cyber or digital insurance. Is that all right? We see a nodding head or two. A couple that are dropping off to sleep. I apologise for that, but I'll try and speak louder at random intervals. So cyber insurance is really straightforward. It splits itself down into 2 separate areas. There's our first party cover, which is just like insuring buildings or contents or stock or something like that. That's the loss of things that we could face ourselves as an organisation. So the bits where we're out of pocket ourselves as a business. So that's things like loss or damage to digital assets. Business interruption, we talked about, James talked about lead times and getting back up on live time following some form of cyber event. And if you also notice, we use in the insurance the phrase cyber event rather than cyber attack, because not all cyber events are malicious or from the outside world. You know, some of them are just mistakes. Some of them are failures of systems or failures of hardware. So we talk about them as cyber events. But if you had a cyber event, how much money would you lose because of the time that you're not able to use that database, that system, that e-commerce website? And obviously, during that period of time, cyber insurance can cover your loss of profit as a result of some form of cyber event whilst you recover from that. It can cover cyber extortion. So for instance, if you end up with that WannaCry virus James talked about, and you end up in a situation where you're being demanded some Bitcoin normally, I mean, I don't keep any of that lying around the house, luckily. But if you find yourself in that situation, you can rely on your insurers to help you either get yourself out of that mess or any losses relating from that extortion event. Customer notification expense is really interesting. It's something that people generally don't think about. Nowadays, under GDPR and the Data Protection Act 2018, we find ourselves in a situation where we are obligated in the event of some form of data breach to report that matter to the Information Commissioner. If they do, we're then at their mercy to follow what their instructions are next. So, for instance, think about the number of data records that you've got within your own organisation. You know, within ours, that's a significant number. It's probably a few thousand, probably verging on 10,000 data records. So, in the unlikely event that that data was breached to the outside world, what would happen next? What would happen if the Information Commissioner turned around to you and said, I want you to write to every single one of your data records that's been exposed and tell them what's happened and where to go? And you say, right, we're in a digital world. Can we not email them? No, we want you to write. So nowadays, a letter doesn't cost any kind of less really than a pound a go by the time you've added postage to a piece of paper and printed it and popped it in an envelope and gone up to the post office and popped it in there. So if you've got 10,000 data records and a circa £10,000 spend to write to every single one of those data records. So all of a sudden, those customer notification expenses become a big obligation to our organizations in the event of there being any form of breach or cyber event. So cyber insurance can cover that too as well at the same time. So it's worth doing that little exercise and having to think about how many data records that you've got within your organization and just working out that alone, is it worth having some cyber insurance for, regardless of the other stuff that I'm wowing and dazzling you with. The reputational damage is also an issue for that. I'm not quite there yet. If you want to just hop back, thank you very much. So a lot of these policies cover PR, disaster recovery and crisis containment costs. So what would you do if your business had a situation where there's a cyber event? What would happen if that got into the public domain? How would you manage your own reputation? And a lot of cyber policies have this capability in the background as well. And then there's obviously the theft of money or digital assets. We can include crime cover in lots of cyber policies to cover things for like social engineering losses and situations where invoices have been tampered with and payments have gone astray as a result of cyber crime and cyber related events. So then the other part of insurance is the third party aspect. So if you want to just flick over there, we'll talk about third party. And just in the same way, you talk about public liability and employers' liability in your own insurance programs that you buy for physical insurance. Third-party insurance covers the losses that the negligence that you owe, the duty of care you owe to third parties. It might be customers, it might be employees, it might be suppliers, it could be anybody, but anybody that's not you. So basically, your liabilities to third parties in general. And that will cover things like security and privacy breaches and any costs associated with that. Dealing with any claims that come your way for multimedia liability or defamation or breach of privacy or negligence. And just to bring some of those to life, that could be using somebody's intellectual property or an image or something along those lines on your social media by accident, and then receiving some form of court summons or demand for compensation as a result of breaching someone's copyright. And it could be denial of access. So for instance, if you have customers that log into your system and they do their job by logging into your system, what happens if that system's not available for them? What would they lose some money, and could they possibly try and recover that outlay from you within contract or legal tort liability to be able to say, actually, we've not been able to earn £5,000 this month, and as a result, because it was your system that caused that loss, we're coming to you for it. So they're the kind of things that cyber insurance covers from a third party perspective. And I think it's important to point out that these are all things that cyber insurance can cover. There's no such thing as a cyber insurance policy that's best to market. There's no such thing as a cyber insurance policy that's the same as another cyber insurance policy. It's all about really understanding what's important to you and then allowing somebody that knows what they're doing from an insurance broking perspective to be able to go out there and find a policy that fits you and your budget and your needs. Okay, so how to buy cyber insurance, I think, is up next. Most importantly, speak to a broker. Brokers are overall generally bad at explaining these types of products because they are new and they're scary and whatnot. And it's our responsibility, in my opinion, as professional advisors on that front, to be able to highlight these things to our clients and make them understand that the cover's available and what it does and how it can benefit them. And then, to a certain extent, we're handing ourselves over to market forces as to whether people take them up. And a lot of the time, economics, particularly when things are difficult like they are at the moment. So make sure you speak to a broker. Brokers can find you a best product for you, and it doesn't have to, there's no such thing as a catch-all product. So ensure your broker's got some expertise. Ensure they sound like they know what they're talking about. And if they try and offer you a product that they offer to every single one of their customers and only provide one cyber insurance product, they do not know what they're talking about. So please beware of that. If you ask a broker, how many cyber products do you provide, and they say just the one, avoid that broker. Because that is not something that is possible to be driven in the current market, because the products vary so differently and all have so many different plus and minus points that there's no such thing as a one size fits all. Don't be forced into a huge cost, and consider your limits of indemnity. Just because you turn over £10 million doesn't mean you need a £10 million limit of indemnity. How many cyber insurance claims have you had in the past few years before you bought insurance? Most people will say none. And as a result, having a cover at £100,000 or £500,000 as a business might well be more than enough just to get you into the habit of having cyber insurance being part of your insurance program over the course of the next few years. And look at that annually and see about whether you should increase it. And it all depends on cost a lot of the time. But don't be forced into thinking that you need millions and millions of pounds from the start. Start somewhere. Something's better than nothing. And it's not like normal insurance where there's an average clause applied. If you've got a 100 grand limit and you end up with a £120,000 claim, then fundamentally you're in a situation where you've lost £20,000 rather than £120,000. So please don't be put off by having a smaller limit just to get you off the ground and running with some cyber insurance. Yeah, I think we've already covered all cyber insurance policies are not the same. So there's some major benefits of having a cyber insurance policy. Business continuity following a cyber event. First and foremost, it gives you a point of call to contact straight away to get immediate specialist advice in a crisis. What do I do next when my systems aren't working? And obviously there's the likes of professional advisors like James and other professional forensic crisis containment IT consultants out there in the world, but all of them charge. All the insurance companies that we tend to deal with have people retained to be able to go out there and be able to come and help you in a crisis as quickly as possible. And getting you back up and running quickly is the most important thing following a cyber event. There's the revenue protection aspect of being able to recover your business interruption if you've got that insured as well whilst your systems are down. You're going to recover faster if you've got somewhere to go to and somebody to project manage your recovery quickly. And as a result, cyber insurance provides those specialists and provides that financial resource to be able to put yourself back into the same position as you were before the event. It also helps you not be held to ransom and then held to ransom. This is as funny as this presentation gets. If you go and pick up the phone to one of those IT providers that are out there that are specialists in recovery, and they say, yeah, it's £2,000 for us to fix your system, Mr. Smith. And you say, and we'll be with you on Friday. And you say, well, it's actually Monday. So could you come tomorrow? Yes, we can, but it's going to be more. It's going to be double the price for us to come tomorrow. So don't get held to ransom and then held to ransom. Pause, await laughter. Everyone's on mute. Move on. Specialist immediate expertise in a crisis is the most important reason why even Melanie's left now. That's how bad insurance is to talk about throughout this process. So, right, with her not being there, I'm not sure that this is going to move forward, but yeah, let's hope it does, because there's only one slide left. Nope, it's not going to do that. So there's some pitfalls to look out for when you're buying insurance policies. Look at the court jurisdictions. Look at the geographical limits of the policy. Look at the claims-related entities exclusions, because they can be quite onerous. You don't want a policy that excludes the ability for your employees, for instance, to make a claim, because your employees probably have the most sensitive data that most businesses have on their systems. Look out for bodily injury and property damage exclusions, and it's really important that you try and get this to dovetail quite nicely with your physical insurance as well at the same time. So I would always recommend having the same broker handle all of your insurance program. Yeah, there's also some overlaps that you can have with cyber insurance, with PI insurance, and some crime overlaps as well at the same time. So it's about understanding where your current portfolio of insurance sits against cyber insurance as well, because what you don't want to end up doing is paying twice for the same insurance, even though that will pay my mortgage off quicker. What's up next? Further help. Yes, if you need any further help with buying cyber insurance, you can contact the British Insurance Brokers Association. They'll help you find a nice, friendly local broker. Look out for a broker that's chartered, and they're always the best, in my opinion, at the very least. There's also the Association of British Insurers. They've got lots of resource available for small businesses online to be able to help them with buying cyber insurance and how it works. And also you can give us a call as well at the same time. And if this slide was on the right one, it would demonstrate our phone number and our website, and you'd be able to be pointed exactly to us if you so required. But furthermore than that, you can ask a question in the chat. Please feel free, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Neil Grimshaw, and I'm the only Neil Grimshaw on LinkedIn with FCII after my name. So please feel free to find me and connect and ask any questions. It'd be great to hear from you all. Thanks a lot.